Welcome to Sassy, Soulful, and Sensitive, a podcast for us introverts, empaths, and highly sensitive people. I'm your host, Cam Swell, and together we are going to explore what it's like to build an empowered life with our sensitivities. We're learning how to trust our intuition and trust our voice. Let's dive in. What's up, Buttercups? How you feeling? Well, I'm feeling pretty okay today. And I'm like, what's the emotion here? Grabbing my emotion wheel. Like, I'm feeling a little bit trepidation because I am recording this in a way that I haven't done in a while. And so it feels kind of new. So yeah, you'll have to let me know what kind of style, if this works for you or not. But today is hopefully going to be short and sweet because what I want to talk about is unnecessary pain. A lot of what I have been coaching with people on over the last year, something that continues to pop up and that has been rolling around in my mind is how much unnecessary pain we put ourselves through. Because as I'm coaching, so much of what happens and even in my own journey, especially when I was going through the bout of depression, but especially outside of that, there's so much unnecessary pain because we're fighting with reality. So what do I mean by fighting with reality? When I'm saying that, what I am meaning is really, it's like, okay, we're telling ourselves all of these stories that are not based in reality. They're not based in facts. And so as we consider what our experience is, what I invite you to do is really identify, what are the facts here? And when I'm saying facts, I could go into within my sensitive self course, I teach all about facts and how to tell the difference between facts and stories. But I want to give you a little bit of a teaser here, if you will, something super simple. When I'm saying reality, let's make it super simple. I want you to think about facts as things that are not in your control. When things are not in your control, the only thing in your control is yourself, your thoughts, your actions, and the emotions that drive them. And for people that are highly sensitive, I think it's really important to note that sometimes it feels, because we can tend to be very, very emotional, it feels almost like we're at the whim of our emotion. And I just want to offer that doesn't have to be a problem, right? Even if there are methods of thought that say we are in control of our emotions, and there are methods of thoughts, whatever. There's methods of thoughts that say that we aren't. And whether it's true or not, to be honest, I don't really care, and it doesn't really matter. But the idea is that we don't make them wrong. Because when we make them wrong, or we make ourselves wrong for things that we can't control, that's what becomes a problem. That's what creates this unnecessary pain. And then we spend all of this time resisting it. And we spend time saying it shouldn't be like this. I should have done something different. The case of the shoulds, shoulding all over yourself, if you will. Those are the kinds of thoughts that create unnecessary pain for ourselves. And if you've ever been in a situation where it's okay, this is happening and I don't like it. Feel your feels. You don't have to like it. No one's asking you to like it. But what are you asking of yourself in that moment? Because oftentimes when I'm coaching, what I'm hearing from people is what people are expecting from themselves is they're expecting that they should have known better, that they should have done something different so that they don't feel the way that they do. They don't feel that pain that they're experiencing, that discomfort. But when we really start to look at what's in our control versus what is not in our control, there's so much power and so much freedom in just being able to identify that. I know it sounds super, super simple. It's not always easy, but it is simple. Again, it's we just don't want to get stopped and stuck in that resistance. So if you feel resistance in your body, notice what that feels like. And at least for me and a lot of my clients, and as we're talking about this, there's kind of like this words that come to mind that they can kind of feel in their body. And it's going to feel a little bit different for everybody, but it's things like pressure, it's things like force. Like those are the two common ones that I hear most often: pressure and force. And so when I say those, like I want you to just pay attention to your body. When you feel like you're forcing yourself to do something, what does that feel like in your body? When you are feeling pressure to do something or pressure for something to be different, what does that feel like in your body? Because the key to moving through resistance, to stop resisting and move into beautiful acceptance, is feeling it in your body, moving through that emotion, moving through that pain. But we need to stop resisting reality, the things that exist in this world that are outside of our control or that just happen. Right? Sometimes shit just happens. Like sometimes there's not a rhyme or reason to it. It might seem like a coincidence. It might just seem like bad luck. And I'm often the kind of person that's like everything happens for a reason. And so how I kind of reconcile that in my own mind that I offer to you in case it's helpful. If it's not, discard it. But if it is helpful, it's this idea that, yeah, if we're experiencing resistance, if we're hitting the same kind of things over and over again, like, yeah, there is a lesson to be learned in it. And that, like, it's important just to learn how to move through it. I think oftentimes we can get really stuck in this idea of having to figure out the why. And the why is not important here. Why is this situation happening in the world? Like, why is it happening? Why is this happening to me? And so much of the why does not matter. The fact is, it is happening to you. The question is what do you want to do about it? There's so much power in just asking yourself that question, like acknowledging, like, okay, this is happening. This is how I feel. This is how I'm thinking. This is the situation I'm in. Now, what do I want to do about it? And I'll give you a little example from my own life here. A couple weeks ago, we went out to an area near the Great Salt Lake because I live in the Salt Lake Valley. And we stayed basically in the middle of nowhere. It's the kind of like the salt flats, salty, deserty area. We stayed there past dark, and we'd never been there before. And we were following friends out in our car, and we lost track of them. They got ahead of us, and we lost track. And we got stuck in the mud. Like, there's not like a main road. It's all just like dirt and salt and mud and water out there. We got stuck in the mud. It was a nightmare. Like, it was not in the control. And I found myself, and I was a passenger. My husband was driving. And I was just like, oh my God, like if I would have been driving, like this wouldn't have happened. I would have been more cautious. I wouldn't have got us stuck. Well, this shouldn't be happening. Like, it was after 10 p.m. That's like really late for me because I'm basically like 87 years old in my my 30-something-year-old body. I hated that experience of being stuck in the mud. But I was like getting out of the car. I was pushing, and then like we were trade spots, and then I was like trying to steer and try to get us out of the mud. But like we were just stuck. There was nothing that could be done. We were trying to call people to see if one of the other people that we were with could come back that had a truck and like pull us out. And thankfully one of them were able to come get us, but they have more experience in that area, and like they could not pull us out. It was if they tried to, they would have gotten stuck as well, because it was like 40 feet around the car that was just like pure mud. Even though we made progress in like pushing our way through and kind of like there was just no way out. So our friends drove us home, and I just noticed myself spinning in the shoulds, or this sucks. It would like it shouldn't have happened. And I had to sit with that discomfort of no, like this is happening and there's literally nothing more that I could do. There's literally nothing else that me or the people I was with or my husband, like, there was nothing else that we could do. We had to leave the car overnight and call in a professional the next day, and like everything turned out perfectly fine. But it was just that it was an inconvenience. It was so interesting. As soon as I made that switch, no, this is happening. It doesn't matter if there's anything I could have done in the past, because I can't change the past, and there's nothing I can do about the future. I don't have control. I don't know what the tow people are going to say. I don't know how much they're going to charge. Our friend estimated like it was going to be over $500. I was like, I can't, like, I could worry about that all I wanted to, but I had to keep anchoring back into this idea of like, nope, there's nothing that I can do different in this moment. We're just going to have to see how things play out. And I had to sit with the discomfort of the shoulds and the fretting of the past and the worrying of the future and what it would entail and all of that stuff, and learn how to just sit with that emotion. And it's like almost an hour drive back, and we were like crammed in my friend's truck. So it gave me time to really just sit with that discomfort and really anchor into this idea of like, okay, I can't fight with reality. We're stuck. We're going to have to pay for a tow. We'll figure things out. And that was that. Right? But it's this idea that we have this idea, and I recently heard this in a book. But I can't tell you which one because I don't remember what it was. But it was like, expect nothing and accept everything. And I think that is so powerful as we're kind of going through this movement, and I don't want to get stuck in this idea like that we can't have expectations. We can, right? And it's okay to have that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't necessarily, but I really like that quote of expect nothing and accept everything, because it really just kind of opens up, and this allows for this freedom to just kind of be an experience. Right? Often I was talking to a client right before I hit record today, and we were talking about expectations for themselves and their partner in their relationship and just like in their life. And it was so interesting to kind of coach through that, because so much of it is expectation, and we do so much to avoid disappointment, and we tend to overthink and again fight with reality of where we're at and like what we can do about it in that moment. We spend so much time fighting that it's just like, no, what if it's not about the expectation? It's just about the experience, right? When we can shift into this idea of like, yeah, this is just an experience. Getting stuck in the mud, that was just an experience. And for the record, it makes for a really great story. We have told that story over the last couple of weeks, and it's kind of been hilarious. Jumping back into the story, I remember looking over at my husband of like being stuck, and we're like, oh, well, we're fucked. There's not much we can do. And we just kind of like smiled, and we kind of like laughed about it a little bit. I was just like, yeah, this is it. This is where we're here. My husband is really, really good at like maintaining that mindset. And I'm the one who tends to like overthink and worry and all of that goodness. Right. But again, it was like, okay, the expectation was that we're just going to like go home immediately. And that didn't happen that way. So fighting through the resistance was not helpful. Like I was fighting the reality, which created the resistance. And as soon as I was able to step into the acceptance, like that's when things changed. And it's the same with my client that I was just talking about of in coaching through the relationship stuff, because it's like, okay, what if this life is not always about learning and growing and having these expectations for ourselves and other people? It truly is just about experiencing. Honestly, I'm probably going to do a whole other podcast episode on that because I feel like I have so much to say, but we'll keep it short and simple today. I hope that talking about this idea of unnecessary pain, fighting with reality, how it creates resistance, and learning, like tuning into our bodies to truly find acceptance, really helps you shift and apply that in your own life to something. Because I know it's not easy, but it can be simple. And when something is simple, it does make it easier. So, my friend, please stop fighting with reality. I should also mention, like, fighting with reality also includes what's happening in our own body and our own brain. I can't tell you the number of clients that I have worked with, especially over this last year, that, and especially just as highly sensitive people, like we fight so much against our sensitivity and how our brain works and how sensitive our bodies are to our environment or medication or chronic pain, how much resistance we have against our own emotions and just feeling. And it's absolutely fascinating to me that this is where we spend so much of our time as highly sensitive people, is fighting with reality, fighting against what's happening, the reality of the world, fighting the reality of what's happening in our brain, fighting the reality of our body, fighting the reality that we have sensitivity. It's exhausting. Like, truly, do you not feel exhausted by this? This overthinking, this resistance, this fighting. It feels so exhausting. And what I want to offer is that it doesn't always have to be that way. It doesn't have to be so hard. And this is why I wanted to record this podcast today on unnecessary pain, because so much of the pain that we create, or so much of the pain we experience, we create for ourselves. And so much of the pain that we experience is completely unnecessary. This is the power of coaching, is when you can start to see where these patterns are happening in your own mind and your own brain and how you're thinking and experiencing the world. When you have someone, a third party that is completely objective, listening to you, empathizing with the pain, and then also at the same time lovingly and boldly kind of calling you out on your shit, it can be really powerful and amazing. My clients have been really appreciative of that. And so I want to offer that to you as the listener, as I consider you a client, I consider you a student. I want to lovingly call you out on the bullshit, because we can't fight with reality. There are things that we can do to change it, influence it, absolutely. Whatever's in your control, go ahead, do it. But because you are a human living in this reality, there are going to be things that are outside of your control. And those are the things that we want to recognize that are not in our control. Stop resisting them and really lean into acceptance. All right, my friend, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, remember, shining bright gives others permission to shine as well. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to learn how to tap into the powerful force of nature you know exists within you, head on over to coachwithcam.com and take the Elemental Energy Type quiz. You'll discover more about how your sensitivity isn't a weakness, but rather the place where your strengths come from. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast platform, and share it with a friend or family member who you want to connect with on a deeper level. You'll be helping other sensitive folks like us find and join our amazing community. So let's connect and support each other on this incredible journey.